So thank you very much. We can start our another talk. So I don't think probably the Satish has not joined. So now the next talk is uh, just a minute. Next talk is osteoporotic DL compressions fracture journey from simple fixation to MISS fixations, and the speaker is Sonali Balsankar from India. Sonali, please, you can start your talk. I don't know whether she.
Good morning. My today's topic osteoporotic dorsolumbar compression fractures, a journey from simple fixation to minimal invasive spine surgery. This is our hospital, SP Institute of Neurosciences, Solapur. The vertebral compression fractures of the thoracolumbar spine are the common in elderly and in females of postmenopausal age group. It causes severe physical limitations, back pain, functional limitations, and disability. Multiple adjacent vertebral compression fractures can lead to progressive kyphosis of the thoracic spine. The most common cause is osteoporosis, followed by trauma, infection, neoplasm, and most postmenopausal women. Osteoporosis is primarily primary or secondary. In primary, the type 1 is postmenopausal woman aging between 50 to 65. Second is senile. And the secondary causes of osteoporosis are endocrine diseases like Cushing syndrome, chronic illnesses like chronic liver diseases, and medications like steroids. These are few modifiable and non-modifiable causes of vertebral compression fractures. So osteoporosis is a systemic disease which results in progressive bone mineral loss, concurrent changes in bony architecture, leaving the spinal column vulnerable to the compression fractures, usually after minimal or no trauma. Vertebral compression fractures contribute to a five-fold increase in the risk of further fracture by virtue of force transmission to the weak vertebrae above and below. While these have been shown to associated with up to 25% age-adjusted increased mortality. The pain is the main feature. Sudden onset pain or continuous low-grade back pain. There is associated thoracic kyphosis and lumbar lordosis, which causes impaired pulmonary function, protuberant abdomen, early satiety, and weight loss. Increased osteoporosis causes inactivity, causes deep vein thrombosis, and decreases the respiratory capacity. It also adds on to lowering self-esteem and it causes emotional and social problems. Along with pain, few of the patients also present with neurological deficits, but they are quite infrequent because such fractures does not involve retropulsion of the bone fragment into the vertebral canal. Fracture occurs in osteoporotic patient during trivial events such as lifting light objects or vigorous coughing or sneezing or while turning in the bed. 60% to 75% occur around the thoracolumbar region. This segment is between T12 to L2 and is considered as a transition zone from a more rigid thoracic spinal column to relatively mobile lumbar vertebral column. This anatomic relationship makes the thoracolumbar junction more prone to the fractures than the rest of the spine. Diagnosis is done by plain X-ray, DEXA scan, CT scan, and MRI. Plain X-ray is not much sensitive. 30 to 50% bone loss is required to appreciate the decreased bone density. The loss of adjacent trabecular bone along with thinning of cortex, which usually remains sharp and clear, give rise to a well-demarcated outlined vertebral body described as empty box sign or picture framing. Bone mineral density measurement. Bone mineral density measurement is the method of estimation of calcium hydroxyapatite. Multiple X-ray based, gamma ray based, ultrasonic methods are also available. Radiographic, single photon or X-ray absorptiometry or DEXA scan, which is most commonly used, is a really reliable indicator. Bone mineral density measurement, if the two standard deviation or more below the mean level, is suggestive of threefold increase in probability of the fracture. CT scan is used to measure the calcium hydroxyapatite levels in the trabecular bone. German Society of Trauma has developed a classification for osteoporotic fractures, in which the OF type 1 is no vertebral body deformity, type 2 is deformity of vertebral body but not involvement of the posterior wall. In type 3, there is deformity of the vertebral body but distinct involvement of the posterior wall of the vertebral body. Type 4 is vertebral body collapse, and type 5 is injury with distraction or rotation. MRI is also useful in few of the cases. The bone marrow signal takes on heterogeneous appearance with round focal fatty lesions replacing the normal marrow. In T1, heterogeneously enhancing hyperintensity is seen in the middle, and in the T2, there is variable signal changes. Now the management. The management first starts with the conservative management, which includes bed rest, analgesics, and bracing. But bracing results in increasing pain because of accelerated bone loss and muscle weakness. The indications for conservative management is minimal pain and no neurodeficit. Majority of patients can be treated with observation and gradual return. They can gradually return to the activity between 6 to 12 weeks. If PLL is intact and the loss of vertebral body height is less than 50%, then conservative management is preferred method. If the fracture is less than 5 days old, calcitonin can be used for 4 weeks to decrease the pain, and other medical method consist of use of biphosphates to prevent further risk of fragile fractures. For operative procedures, vertebroplasty is one of the procedures for which indication is pain, but the outcome is controversial. Randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trials have shown no beneficiary effects of vertebroplasty, and vertebroplasty has higher rates of cement extravasation and associated complication than kyphoplasty. Kyphoplasty is indicated in the patient who are having continuous severe pain after 6 weeks of conservative management. Kyphoplasty is different than vertebroplasty in that a cavity is created by balloon expansion. Thus, the cement can be injected with less pressure. Pain relief is thought to be from the elimination of micromotion. If patient continues to complain of severe pain or there is a developing kyphotic deformity, if patient has progressive neurological deficit and unstable spine due to PLL injury, then the spinal fixation is the gold standard. The goal of surgery is stabilization and early mobilization, for which long construct with multiple fixation points, implant placement with cement augmentation, combined anterior and posterior fixation, and pedicle screw fixation with kyphoplasty are different techniques which are used for spinal fixation in osteoporotic spine. Meticulous insertion techniques, preservation of the dorsal cortex at the hole, untapping of the hole, anterior cortex penetration, and proper screw trajectory. Screws with larger diameter and expandable shapes, which increases the pull-out strength, are the preferred screws for the osteoporotic spine. In recently, we have got different types of screw like dual thread screw, which increases the implant and the bone contact. Along with that, there are cannulated screw. So the screw placement can be augmented by the bone cement, and then expandable screw, which increases the purchase of the screw, is really helpful. Additionally, laminar hook or sublaminar wiring along with fixation is also advisable. These are the few cases which we have treated at our hospital. This was an elderly male, known case of compression fracture since 4 years. He presented with mild pain. As the pain was bearable, he was treated conservatively with analgesic and back muscle strengthening exercises. This is in case of 65-year-old male. He presented with back pain after fall in the washroom. Due to severe back pain, he was taken up for the surgery and treated with dual thread screw fixation. Post-operatively, pain was subsided and he was mobilized early. This is an 80-year-old lady who presented with back pain and tingling in both lower limbs. We were thinking between osteoporotic fracture versus pathological fracture. In this patient, decompressive laminectomy and fixation was done using dual thread screws. Biopsy was negative for infection or malignancy. Post-operatively, she was pain-free and walking independently. This is another case of an elderly female who presented with back pain after traveling on a two-wheeler on a bumpy road. She was diagnosed to have L1 osteoporotic fracture. Treatment with cannulated screw augmented with bone cement was done. Satisfactory stabilization was achieved and she was pain-free post-operatively. This is in case of a 70-year-old lady who presented with severe backache and weakness in both lower limbs. She was having osteoporosis along with collapse of vertebra due to port spine. Decompressive laminectomy and fixation was done. We used cannulated screw and bone cement where the bone was soft, and other two level we used regular pedicular screw. Thus we achieved solid long segment multiple point fixation at low cost, and AKT was continued post-operatively. This is in case of 85-year-old male who presented with back pain following fall in bathroom. Initially, he was treated conservatively, but pain did not subside. Minimal invasive fixation was done using cannulated screw and bone cement was used. Along with solid fixation, he got the benefits of minimal invasive surgery, that is, small incisions, less blood loss, minimal muscle dissection, and minimal post-operative pain. Thus, he was mobilized on third post-operative day and was discharged on fourth post-operative day. Minimal invasive surgery in elderly patient really helps, as though the duration of surgery is slightly longer for the initial period, but as you get acquainted to it, the period decreases significantly and results are fantastic. Along with the cases, we do have our share of complication. This case was done in 2016. It was our first case of cannulated screw and bone cement. After placing the screw, the bone cement was pushed before it was hardened adequately. Thus, there was sudden decrease in EtCO2 and post-operatively patient was slightly breathless and O2 requirement was 8 liter. X-ray was done which was suggestive of pulmonary embolism from bone cement. Patient was treated with corticosteroids and O2. On 7th post-operative day, she was weaned off from the oxygen and she was mobilized and discharged on 10th post-operative day without any deficit. So in conclusion, the osteoporotic fractures affect many patients worldwide and are most common in elderly population, especially post-menopausal women. The most important step in treating the compression fracture is prevention and treatment of osteoporosis. When the fracture becomes symptomatic and cause disability, several treatment options are available, including kyphoplasty, cement augmented screw fixation, minimal invasive surgery to alleviate the pain and correct the sagittal imbalance of the spine. Thank you.
Doing the open surgery as well.
We are doing MISS and other augmentation procedure as well. In MISS, the cost is the issue, sir.
Okay.
So, considering the affordability of the patient, we decide upon the approach, and after explaining them the advantages of all the procedures.
And do you do something for kyphotic correction? Like you had shown something which is you were telling the biopsy is negative,
Yeah.
but there were a lot of bone loss there.
Yes.
So,
So in that case, the anterior and posterior wall of the vertebral body was involved and it was fractured. So we did not attempt kyphoplasty for that case.
okay, thank you very much.